Greetings from the 25th century and welcome to 80s Comics for the review of Buck Rogers issue number 15 from 1982. Buck Rogers in the 25th century, one of my all-time favorite TV shows. And maybe you're like, Mark, you don't really like Buck Rogers. Oh yes, I do. It's got a great soundtrack. Every now and then I play this album before drunk dialing Aaron Gray. We would be together were it not for that pesky restraining order. Buck Rogers, the comic book. Does it live up to Buck Rogers, the TV show? Nope, not even close. From Whitman Comics, purveyors of crappy comics. And you thought Turok was just a video game. I don't have any Dagar the Invincible. That looks pretty good, actually. And by good, I mean terrible. But sometimes terrible's good, and sometimes terrible is just terrible, or at least moderately interesting. So check it out. Here's the dome that used to be Chicago, and outside the dome is like the wasteland, and the people who live outside the dome are mutants. Mutants. This guy walks towards the dome, and then he walks right through the wall and shapeshifts into that guy with the terrible haircut. She's into him, though. But he's a bad guy. He's up to no good. He steals a spaceship, and then he fakes his own death. But check this out. Whitman Comics, you know that. Whitman Comics doesn't have any ads. So you do get a lot more comic book for your money, and if I'm not mistaken, these came in like 3-packs. Like crap. I think this probably came with like Roadrunner comic book or something, the Roadrunner comic book. Anyway, you know what the Roadrunner doesn't have is mutants dissolving in wheelchairs. Buck Rogers does have that. There's Buck Rogers and Dr. Huer installing more RAM into their PC. Actually, they're building a super ray. A super ray that looks like a 1980s slide projector that they're wheeling into your classroom. and they hope that they'll soon have a reason to celebrate their super ray. That's actually a pretty cool panel. The sound effects really make it. Zzz, 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 burp, 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 burp. And they've un-mutantified this guy. Look at that. Suddenly, we're in awe of Buck Rogers' incredible 1982 haircut. Look at that haircut. Buck had a full head of hair. So Killer Kane ends up getting dragged into Draco the Conqueror's magic intergalactic disco lair with the throw pillows and the flagon of wine, and the guards who all look like Major Blood from Cobra. Not so bad. It's not good, but it's not bad. And here we see that Killer Kane can transform into different animals. He's a shapeshifter. And he lays out this elaborate plot to conquer Earth. And there's Princess Ardala, who doesn't really look anything like Princess Ardala from the TV show, sadly. She looks like poor man's Wonder Woman. Killer Kane makes his way back to Earth and takes the form of that guy who uses way too much VO5 hot oil, but he does have a nice mustache. This dude is apparently buddying up to Wilma, but again, that's not the Wilma that we all know and love. No. I don't know who that girl is. Buck gets jealous. And Tweaky's always awesome. You gotta love Tweaky. All right, so one thing leads to another, and while there's no ads in this comic, the artwork is Jack Kirby, it's not. The storytelling is kind of all over the place, but this does have one really nice scene, and I'm gonna show you that. Buck Rogers is attacked by a tiger, and he punches out the tiger. That's like Conan the Barbarian level bravery right there. Does your favorite 80s TV show action star know how to punch out a tiger? I don't even think Mr. T punched out a tiger. He may have shot one or two of them in the A-Team, but I don't think he's punched one out. I could be wrong about that. I pity the fool that don't punch out tigers. So in addition to the main story, we also get 10 levels of death. A bonus story, which is like Buck Rogers if Buck Rogers was living inside an Atari 2600 game. So that's not all bad. Look, they have to disarm this thing, which looks like the bomb from Reactor or something, floating towards Earth. And speaking of clumsy storytelling, like this one is all over the place. It's actually really hard to follow. So Buck and Tweaky end up on this thing trying to disarm it, but it's not really clear who or what they're fighting. But we do find that there's like people stuck inside evil disco mirrors, and then Buck and Tweaky face off against a robot, and it's It's not a great issue. I can't really say that I recommend Buck Rogers, the 1982 comic book. If you want to read Buck Rogers, the 1930s comic strips are terrific. But this is just, it's wacky, it's cheap, and it's kind of fun. Buck punches out a tiger. That's all you need to know. Buck punches out a tiger. It's Buck Rogers in the 25th century, issue number 15. I don't have any of the other ones. They must not have come in those 3-packs with Cinderella and Snow White and Pinocchio. Whitman Comics. All the comics you didn't read because they weren't good.